Namaste and a very warm welcome to all of you in this daily morning live meditation session with me, Dhyanse. My salutations to Patanjali, to the knowledge of yoga, for allowing us to bring this knowledge into our life, to transform our life and take us out of our miseries that we create for ourselves and for the world. Yoga is clarity of mind, clarity of consciousness, so that you not only understand it superficially, understand yourself superficially, but rather as deep as possible. The entire construct of who we are, how we function, how the mind is, how the mind functions, is all illustrated in yoga, is all a part of yogic understanding. As you go along with me through these Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, not only you will understand the sutras theoretically, but the understanding of it just by going through these sutras, your energies will reorganize. Your energies will come into yoga, into a union by just going through these sutras. That is the design of Patanjali, the highest intelligence put into the design of yoga, into the build-up of these sutras, in a way that while going through these sutras, just by understanding them, just by revealing the meaning of them to ourselves, by being open, by receiving them, there is already transformation. The sutras that we are currently going through, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is cessation of the mind stuff from taking various forms. TADA DRASHTUH SVAROOPE AVASTHANAM. Then the seer rests in his own unmodified state. VRITTI-SARUPYAM ITARATRA. In other states, the seer is identified with the modifications. See that Patanjali is already setting a goal, a clarity for you, what yoga is about. When yoga happens, so that you're not kept in the dark, so that you know what to aim at, so that you can measure, constantly see what's happening and see whether you are on the right path or not. Yoga is the cessation of the mind stuff from taking various forms. I explained this yesterday in detail, but afterwards some of you wrote to me to make this more clear. What is this mind stuff? What is this chitta? And what are the forms that it takes? In very simple words, if you do not want to have this sophisticated understanding, the surgical understanding of this topic, you can see this as mind, simply as mind, cessation of mind, meaning the silence of mind. When the mind is completely silent, then yoga happens. Yoga is when mind is completely silent. That would be the most simplistic definition, the most simplistic understanding and explanation. Whatever you call as mind, if that is silent, that is yoga. That's when yoga happens. That's when energies reorganize and come into union, into one. Now, the more sophisticated understanding of what is this mind stuff, what are the forms? To understand that, we have to go slightly back in the past and then in the future. And I hope by doing that, you will have a better picture of what is Chitta. Chitta, the mind stuff, which Patanjali is talking about. Let's go into the past first. I grew up in India. Over there was sometimes electricity was there, sometimes it was not there. And in the night, in the evening, when it's dark and there was no electricity, we used to light up a candle. And as we were children, what I distinctly remember us enjoying was to play in front of the candle with our fingers, and the fingers making a shadow on the wall. And this I remember distinctly when I saw for the first time the joy in my eyes to see that the two fingers were not actually the two fingers, they were the rabbit on the wall. They were the eagle on the wall, on the projected wall. The shadow, when it was projected, it was for me the rabbit, for me it was the eagle. So this projection on a screen is the Chitta, the screen on which you see the projection. In this case, it's a two-dimensional screen. Chitta is multidimensional. In its originality, it's not even three-dimensional, it's multidimensional. But to understand it, the two-dimensional screen on the wall on which the candle and the two fingers were making the shadow of a rabbit, and me as a child assuming, identifying with the shadow as a rabbit, is what Patanjali is referring to as, first of all, Chitta, the screen, the shadow, the form that is there on the screen is the form which he is talking about, which is taking place in Chitta. And the third thing is the identification. The seer, me, the child, the seer, when the child, the seer, is looking at that eagle or at that rabbit on the wall, it's identified with it. It thinks that this is real. It thinks that this is actually happening. In these two, the play of two things, the form on Chitta and the seer identified with the form, is the secret of the entire world. The entire world is a projection in front of us, where all what is happening is we, the seer, in the state we are currently, is identified with it, is seeing this as real. It's the same as a child looking at the shadow of the fingers, thinking it's a rabbit or an eagle. Now let's go somewhat into the future for those who never had no issues with electricity, who may not follow the logic, who may not follow the analogy. In future, we are coming up with this virtual reality. If you had put up these virtual reality glasses ever, you will see that the moment you put on these glasses, you're thrown into a completely different world. The world where there is a beautiful landscape, you are immediately taken into the depths of the ocean. You see dolphins and fishes floating. You are taken to another planet. You are taken to whichever place when you put on these virtual reality glasses. It's also a Chitta there. There is also a projection there, and in that projection, you see that projection, you are in that projection. The only difference here right now is that you somewhat know. You're not the child who doesn't know that this is not a rabbit, this is just a finger and the shadow of the finger making the image of the rabbit. You in virtual reality glasses right now know what you see, the landscapes, the journey it takes you, you know somewhat, as involving, as beautiful, or if you're watching a horror film or anything, a projection, whatever thoughts, whatever emotions you go through during that projection, somewhere deep down you know that this is not reality. This is just a projection. But imagine in future, when this identification with what you see becomes more and more solid, and this understanding, this deep down clarity that this is just a projection becomes more and more blur, comes to a point where we forget that what we see when we put on these glasses is not real. When we take it for reality, imagine what will happen. Imagine that state when you are putting up a virtual reality glass, you are in whichever situation you would like to be in, and you have no sense of breaking this identification, or in other words, the identification is so strong that you take that projection as reality. Yoga is to always bring you back from this projection to reality, to make you always understand, remind you there is a seer, remind you there is a chitta, there is a projection, there is an image, and give you a way in which this projection is over. The only way you would know that this was a projection is when you become aware of the seer, when for even a short while that projection is taken away from your mind screen and you are disidentified with what's happening. Now, what is chitta? We went into the past, we went into the future. Let's come to this moment. When you close your eyes and I tell you to imagine an elephant in a jungle, do that right now in that present moment. Close your eyes and imagine an elephant walking in the jungle. Now, where is this projection made? That screen that you see in front of your closed eyes, where that elephant is actually walking in the jungle, that is chitta. The form of the elephant walking is the form, is the vritti, which is the modification in your chitta. And who is watching that elephant walking in the jungle is the seer. Remember this basic principle, these basic elements of the construct of your mind, that there is a screen, which is the chitta, which takes forms, images, and then there is a seer. It's very important to note the seer as well, as much as it is important to note the projection and the form on that projection. With that, let us very briefly go through what the sutras mean. The sutra says, yoga is cessation of the mind stuff from taking various forms. So yoga is when this projection is not happening anymore, when there is only bright light or not even light. There is absolutely no projection. The chitta is completely clear. There is no form, no object, no projection. Then the seer rests in his own unmodified state. Only when the movie is over, when there is nothing to see on the screen, slowly the seer is coming to rest. The seer is not caught up in the projections, is not always excited to see what is on the screen. And lastly, in other states, the seer is identified with the modifications. I already explained that when some movie is going on constantly on the screen, you are constantly identified with it. And that's not just true for what's happening in the mind, but that's true for what you see and what you experience throughout your life. This whole world, as you see, is a projection, and you're identified, the seer in you is identified with all the projection, making it real. Take the projection off, take the identification off, and the seer sits in its restful place, in its unmodified state. For today's meditation, for today's silence, I would like you to reflect on what is being explained. Please close your eyes. Put your hands in your lap or on your thighs, with your back upright. Awareness to your mind screen. All images, thoughts, everything that is going on in your inner space, in the projection of your mind. Take a note of this screen as Chitta. See that someone in you, the seer, is observing this mind screen, is observing what's happening on the mind screen. And for the next minutes, assume whatever is happening on your mind screen is just a projection. It's just an illusion. It's not real. Whatever you're thinking, the images, the sounds, the inner chatter, the noises from the outside, everything from perception to the projections on your mind screen is all unreal. inner conversations, thoughts, images, even emotions, perceptions, all are unreal. Stay in this realization. As all these forms settle and the mind screen clears, notice the seer, the witness. Let that witness rest. Let that witness be disidentified with the projections. The screen is blank, the mind is silent, awareness on the seer, allowing the seer to rest. Let all projections go. And the seer, the witness, at rest. Notice this restful state. Remember this restful state. If you wish to stay longer in this meditative state, keep your eyes closed. Let no projections arise. Let your witness be at rest for as long as you like. Or very gently and slowly open your eyes. See how the perception turns into reality. How the seer, the witness, once again identifies with what is in front. Maintain this silent awareness and the learnings from the session throughout your day. I will see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Central European Time. Namaste.